Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is Summer Rain.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
My name is Jordan Willis.
And my name is David Howe.
And boy, oh boy, do we have a special episode for you. The Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door remake is out on the Nintendo Switch after, 20 almost years? I'm enjoying it. We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about this week's news. Believe it or not, there's a couple of things that happened this week that wasn't just Paper Mario coming out. Specifically, just acquisitions. Oh, more of that. God, I'm sick of talking about it, but we're going to talk about it.
It's been a year.
Some more N64 decompilation. That's exciting. But before all of that, how's everybody been?
Pretty good. Doing all right on this episode 260 of the podcast. I'm doing okay. This is the last time YouTube video watchers of the podcast will see this background. I'm moving next week. So this is my last podcast from this office. It has treated me well for the last 3 years. And I don't know, 150 some odd episodes of this podcast. Honestly, more than anything, I'm going to miss the wood paneling on my office space because I'm kind of like a weirdo and I like a nice 70s wood paneling on the walls. It's cozy. I like it. It feels nostalgic to me. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's just been intermittently packing and stressing about the fact that I'm not packing and other kinds of things. But other than that, I'm okay. Next week, hopefully, I'll be in a little bit better of a headspace.
Do you know what kind of walls you're going to have?
Yeah, I mean, they're just white walls in the new place. Yeah. The office, it's another 2-bedroom that I'm moving into by myself. So it's like I'll have another space that is just for podcasting, streaming, working from home, which is great. It's really something I needed that was like on my needs list. But yeah, I'll put up stuff around. I'll decorate it nice, everything. But
does it have a tiny door?
Not as tiny as Summer's little door right there. I'll tell you that. Oh my God, don't open it. You'll let out the demons. If you're not watching on YouTube, what are you doing?
The live in there.
Yeah. The borrowers are down in there. But yeah, what about y'all? Anything going on with y'all's lives?
Yeah, I mean, I had gone to Seattle, I think last I had talked. And so since I've been back, I've just been we're trying to finish up this movie we filmed today, right before this. I came straight from that. We're getting very close. After today, we'll be like 95% filmed. So we are very close to just wrapping on principal photography. Saw Furiosa.
Fuck yeah, me too.
Pretty sick, pretty cool movie. Some stuff in there that I was like, I ain't never seen that in a movie before. That's pretty badass.
Yes.
Even if I had a somewhat spicy take within the Discord, but I still actually really, really enjoyed that film.
That's a movie that I've found, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I want to see that again. And then I did see it again. And then I was like, this is a fucking masterpiece.
Word. Yeah, I do want to rewatch it again in the theater before it leaves because I watched Fury Road again at home. I watched every Mad Max leading up. But Fury Road is good. Don't get me wrong. Great film. Doesn't hit the same at home. I don't have a nice, huge sound setup. But other than that, they also opened up the Vulcan video collection, archive, whatever you want to call it, at Alamo Drafthouse Village. You can rent up to 3 movies now from there for free. By the way, you just have to put a credit card down and a ID, and there's rules if you're late. But yeah, it's the Vulcan video collection is back available for rent. They're calling it Video Vortex, but I love it. You know, it's really cool to see that collection not just be stored in a warehouse somewhere. It's just thousands of Blu-rays and DVDs. Some of them they're out of print. You can't find them anymore. They're never going to be streaming anywhere. So just access to that media is really nice. Yeah. How are y'all doing, Summer, Patrick?
2 things I want to share. First of all, the first new thing is going to make David happy, I think. I have started watching The Expanse.
Hey! Very good. Alcon Entertainment. Let's go.
I'm about 7 or 8 episodes in, pretty into it. I don't watch a lot of TV or movies, so I've been watching it at a pretty decent clip for me.
It's good, right?
Enjoying it. Yeah. My wife is watching it with me. She'd actually watched it before, and I had caught bits and pieces of it, like while I played games in handheld or something, but not like very focused on it.
That's one you want to lock in for. There's a lot going on. turn on subtitles.
And I would. She just watches a lot more TV than I do. So anytime, she's like watched 3 episodes before I, you know what I mean? So I didn't even like pay close attention, but I remember little bits and pieces, but still it's all kind of a surprise to me, and it's been really good so far. So
good news is too, it only gets better. It just gets better and better and better.
Yeah. She's been telling me that there's more characters later that are some of her favorites and stuff like that. So, which I think is true for you too, David, if I recall. But
totally.
Then the other thing is I think I talked about this on the podcast last summer, but I did some work last summer for a plant nursery run by a friend of mine. And I am doing some work for them again, which is good because money is good. But of course it means I have a little less time to work on Monochrome Heights, but it's pretty part-time. So I'm continuing to work on the game mostly, and then this will help me get out of the house for a little bit and make some money. So
perfect weather for it.
Yeah, I am out in a van delivering plants, but the van is air conditioned, and it really isn't that bad. I'm out for 5 minutes at a time, but yeah, it is a great summer job.
It is sweltering right now, dude. Yeah, I've barely left my front door,
but I really enjoy it for what it's worth, and I like working with them. So anyway, that's what's going on with me.
I've had a really eventful time, mostly because I went to Anime Central here in Chicago. So that's the big anime convention up here in the Midwest, technically in Rosemont, Illinois. Got to do a lot of really fun group cosplays with my friends. We all dressed in green swimsuits and wigs and painted our cheeks red for our Oops All Dim pool party on day 0. So if you're familiar with Mob Psycho 100, there is a character whose name is Dimple. He is a spirit. He starts a cult. We thought it would be funny. What if we did the cult? Did Pokemon champions from various different games, cosplayed that with my friends. Had a lot of fun doing that. Got to see Lotus Juice in concert, who wrote a lot of the music from Persona 3. And so redid a lot of those tracks for Persona 3 Reload, right? The remake that came out this year. That was a lot of fun to see live. Also got to dress up and play my accordion again as Cass from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That was a ton of fun, super rewarding. A friend of the show, KSBOKC, dressed up as Beetle again. And we found a really good spot in the convention lobby where we posted up and had a lot of trinkets that he would trade with folks. And then I would play various different songs. I want to say I was playing Zelda's Lullaby, and this couple came and started dancing in front of me while I was playing. And that's just what it's about, man. It was really nice. And I finally bought an ocarina after 10 years of saying I don't want to be that person. Didn't realize that the fingerings were identical to the flute, which was an instrument that I played, back in the day. So that's been going well. Recently, I'm mentioning this just because Patrick got a mention in it. I finally published my blog of my recap of San Japan from last year. So I'll probably link that in the Discord if you're curious about reading about my time at San Japan, if you're interested in going, because I know a lot of our listeners are local-ish to that area. It's in driving distance. I highly recommend that convention. It's just getting bigger and better every year.
I'll be there.
Yeah, Patrick will be there. Are you going to be there again with a table again?
Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing.
That's the plan.
Love it.
Last week, we did an episode on gaming journalism with Isaiah Colbert, and that was a great episode. And in response to our question about what are some of your favorite publications, Haitham Saeed over on the YouTube said they really like Nintendo Life's team, and also IGN sometimes. And yeah, we didn't really talk about Nintendo Life, but they're a great Nintendo publication.
Hello there, lovely people.
And then over on YouTube as well, Krakow said, boy, oh boy, a new Super Switch Headz just dropped. Y'all's news and rumors part of the podcast has been a favorite of mine. Getting a weekly breakdown of what's going on is great. Thank you, Krakow. Yeah, and just to that point, if there's any specific part of the show you like more than others, we try to timestamp the YouTube and also the podcast descriptions. So if no beef with anybody who just wants to check out the news or jump to it or whatever, that's easy to do with the timestamps. So Karosetta on YouTube said, great guest. Also loved hearing David shout out my favorite video game journalist and one of my favorite podcasters, Kat Bailey. Over on our Discord, Cool Uncle Vince shared the Alleyway box art because we talked about Alleyway on NSO, and I'd forgotten that Mario is allegedly in that.
He's in the little paddle.
Yeah.
It's a giant paddle ship.
And also, I think it was Cool Uncle Vince as well, who pointed out my flub of saying Summer's Game Fest, which started a discussion involving them and Swampy Southpaw and Sowing Shade and some others about summer. We would like it if you would host a game fest.
You know,
it doesn't have to be in the summer.
No, y'all, you're giving me ideas. I don't know. I think I do need to come up with some kind of game fest for this summer. So stay tuned.
Look, I'm not trying to cause drama between the podcast hosts right now, but I need to correct everyone, including you, Patrick. It was Jordan who said Summer's Game Fest at the very beginning of the show. So I would just want to clear your name, Patrick, while also making sure everyone knows that Jordan flubs his words more than anybody else on this podcast. So
I'm okay with that.
I'm not trying to stir up drama. I'm just trying to say Patrick is objectively better at speaking than Jordan is. And no, I'm just kidding.
To be fair, he has done many more episodes than me. I would say probably at least 200 more than me. So he's got a lot more experience. You know, we're doing what we can out here.
And also, for the record, there is a Summer's Game Fest, and it is called the Fire Emblem Spoilers Chat on our Discord. So be sure to go and join in over there as well.
Well, if you two want to be shouted out, then, we like to hear from our listeners and viewers. Definitely leave a comment on the YouTube or send us a DM or leave a note on social media or join the Discord and make a comment over there, and we'll try to shout you out. We also appreciate all of our patrons over on Patreon. And if you're watching the YouTube, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll move on to our news and rumors portion of the show. So like Summer hinted at up top, there's been some acquisitions, and that's what we're going to start off with. In light of our last episode about games journalism, we'll start with the games journalism acquisition. So IGN apparently has acquired the Gamer Network. And maybe you're not familiar with that term. I'm not super familiar with that, but that was probably a conglomeration of somebody that acquired a bunch of different gaming journalism websites and stuff. But it consists of a number of notable ones like Eurogamer, Rock Paper Shotgun, GamesIndustry.biz, I think is part of it. A bunch of other ones, or a handful
Digital
of
Foundry
other ones
as well.
Unfortunately, they have acquired it, and then there has been layoffs. That's a bummer because these are some good places, and games journalism is already tight, and it's now tighter, and it's also now more what's the word I'm looking for? Conglomerated. Consolidated, not conglomerated.
Yeah. Conglomerated works. Congealed.
Apparently they're going to keep, at least it sounds like from my understanding, I haven't dug deep into this, they're going to keep all these things running, but there are layoffs, so that doesn't seem like a good thing, right? I mean, I think it's good that, because some of these are cool brands, and I think it makes sense to keep them going, but man.
This was crazy timing because we did our episode on games journalism, and then literally it was either the night after we recorded or the following morning, Ziff Davis is bought all of these different outlets, right? And so it kind of, I think that would have completely changed the direction of our conversation had this happened right before our last episode. I did actually reach out to Isaiah afterwards just to get some of his thoughts after this. And, consolidation, like you talked about, is never a good thing. I mean, we see this kind of stuff in news media as well, in ways that are really disturbing often, Sinclair Group, and a lot of the same companies own a lot of the local news networks, and then you just find that everybody gets the same copy, and it kind of means that they're all just mouthpieces for somebody. I'm not saying that that's necessarily happening right now, but the possibility for it happening just went up, tenfold, right? When you have one major owner in a lot of news media outlets. It's just never a good thing. I hope that there is some autonomy that can still be had within a lot of these branches. It is companies that are owned by companies that are owned by IGN Entertainment, which is owned by Ziff Davis.
No, I was literally about to say the same thing about consolidation within media. And when you see those clips of the news from all over the country, but it's local news stations, but they're saying the exact same thing. Super creepy and dystopic. And games journalism doesn't feel as serious as local news. That's how you can live your life with being well informed, but I feel like it is something that could go south. And you're right, the potential for it to go south just went up so much. But
sticking with acquisitions, Atari has apparently acquired the Intellivision brand and over 200 Intellivision games. And
what year is it?
Yeah, right. That is definitely a weird headline. Interesting for lots of reasons, right? One of which is that many years ago they were competitors, and now not something you hear a lot about from either of them. Of note, I suppose, is that Atari did not take the Amico console, and Intellivision is going to still exist, but like rebrand and continue work on that.
It's funny that Atari was like, we're not touching that thing with a 10-foot fucking pole. Like even Atari is like, we want nothing to do with Tommy Tallarico and his weird inventions.
I mean, they could have put it in all of their hotels. What are we doing here? Why else do you buy Intellivision?
Are those hotels still happening?
I have no idea. I just thought that was really bizarre when they happened in the first place.
I just watched that Jenny Nicholson 4-hour-long Star Wars hotel YouTube video, and now I'm like, I really want to stay in an Atari hotel.
Atari is one of those companies that like the name still holds weight, but like, yeah, what are they doing? I don't know. Maybe making hotels.
Yeah, it's weird. I mostly associate them with like dystopic fiction because of its association with like Blade Runner. Yeah, it's not a great vibe, but Atari is doing some cool stuff in the realm of like game publishing now. They're just nowhere near the juggernaut that they used to be.
We'll move on to another alleged rumor about an acquisition, which I don't think is true or going to happen, even if it is true. And that is this past week, there was a rumor going around that Microsoft is looking to purchase Steam, or Valve rather, and specifically going to make an offer of $16 billion. This kind of just came from some random Twitter user, I think, or at least that's where it's tracked back to. And I don't think they have any like evidence or anything like that. And like every article you read about is like it, but that's not going to happen for lots of reasons. I think you could argue this isn't going to happen, though. The reason that it, might exist or might have some basis in reality is we know that from the FTC lawsuit that they had internally discussed wanting to acquire Valve, right?
Smells like bullshit to me. I don't know. I feel like Gabe Newell doesn't want to sell. Also, 16 billion seems really low.
That is like pennies,
like
compared to what it's worth.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they get a piece of every one of those market sales. So I'm like, there's no way 16 billion is near enough. I don't imagine, I guess World of Warcraft and Hearthstone. I don't know how Blizzard, I guess Call of Duty. That makes sense. But anyway, whatever. I just don't think it has any weight whatsoever. I don't think they want to sell. And on top of that, I feel like if they had a hard time pushing through the Activision Blizzard merger, pushing through a marketplace acquisition like that when they already have their own marketplace and a piece of that share already in that big pie, to add that on top of, I don't think they'd ever be able to get it pushed through. I don't think it would, maybe it would pass. Maybe I'm wrong, but it would take at least the same amount of time as the Activision Blizzard merger. And if they're already starting to break down Activision Blizzard and do layoffs, I can't imagine they're ready to start going for something this big again. I
think you hit that nail on the head. I think this is bullshit for so many reasons. And I think the biggest reason is because they just spent $70 billion and the Microsoft gaming division is in shambles right now, and they have yet to make any of that money back. I just can't see it. They've got the PC market cornered. If there's any truth to this, it's that Microsoft, they want all of the PC market. And this is purely a play to incorporate it into their Microsoft store or whatever. But gamers would be so fucking pissed. It's just not ever going to happen. So I think that we're all pretty safe in a world where this is not going to be a thing.
Well, we're going to move on to...
Can I quickly just say, what do you do? Knock on wood. I just don't want to have jinxed it by saying that. All right. Sorry. Now we can move on.
Now we'll move on to... we're going to now move on to some Nintendo news here. First up on the Nintendo front is that it was announced by Nintendo of America that they're going to open a store in San Francisco. So this would be the second physical store in the United States. And it's going to open in 2025. I don't think the press release said anything more specific about win in 2025. But I think this makes a lot of sense. We've talked about, Nintendo wanting to, expand out into other entertainment stuff. And I think people are hungry for Nintendo content, stuffies, toys, whatever, t-shirts. Kind of surprised they are only opening one, maybe even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally. Have you been to the Nintendo store in New York, Patrick?
I have not. No.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's small,
Yeah.
I can't imagine real estate in San Francisco. They're going to be able to open anything that's too much bigger than the Nintendo store in Rockefeller Center, but it is cool. And it's surprising to me that that's been the only store that they have in the US right now. As I understand it, they've opened a second store and maybe even a third store in Japan as well. So this seems to be a trend that they're kind of moving to more retail locations. I think this is a good thing. It's interesting. I was reading some thread online about Disney stores and how kind of the Disney stores all sort of went away. Those were such a big deal in every single mall. They were pretty cool stores, with lots of, as a kid anyway, it was really cool to go inside one of those. But it's interesting to see kind of Nintendo taking more and more from Disney in their branching out of different business ideas, as Disney themselves are paring back on a lot of those ideas recently. It's just an interesting trend to see.
And they should, because I still haven't forgiven them back when they did, what was it called? Disney, was it Infinity? Was that the name of their game with
the Amiibos, with Disney Amiibos? Yeah.
And how so much of those games, so many of the maps were ripped straight from Splatoon and but worse, right? And they tried to blame Nintendo for why theirs didn't work. Like, no.
Wow. So this is comeuppance for Disney, is what you're saying.
You heard it here first. By the time you're listening to this podcast, Disney World in Orlando is actually Nintendo World. All of those parks.
I definitely thought about the Disney store and its trajectory when reading about this too. But it does seem like the time for Nintendo store, right? Yeah.
I think I'm more surprised that it's only in San Francisco and not Seattle, which is closer to Redmond, or LA. I mean,
it's now a second location in the US that's on the other coast. What I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah.
If you're going to make a destination retail trip, then at least if it's closer to you, I mean, I guess you could go there, but I think as Nintendo fans, we all need to make a pilgrimage to the Nintendo store in Rockefeller Center at least once. It's our Mecca. It is our religion.
Next up is a rumor or leak, possibly, that's going around related to a new Mario game that is in development. Leaker Midori, is that their name? Is shared information that there is a game in development or a project at Nintendo with the code name SP Red. And apparently, historically, Red is used as a code name for all the recent Mario games. It should be no surprise, I guess, that there's a Mario game in development, but that this is kind of a little bit of info about it. And, we talk about launch titles for the Super Switch. This could be it, right? I don't know that SP could mean anything, but we could speculate about it. Does anybody have any theories about what SP means?
I think it means super. I think it means Super Switch, baby. That's why I wanted to put this news in. This is proof that the next console is going to be called the Super Nintendo Switch. We are seen and heard. They love us. Anyway, that's basically all I got. I mean, I imagine that a new Mario game has actually been done for a while, right? So honestly, if I had to guess as to what this is, I think this is whatever the next Mario game after the next game that we're getting is going to be, because I think that we've just had a whole bunch of Super Switch games sitting, done, and ready to go. But we'll get to that actually a little bit later in the show.
A couple of weeks ago, we talked about this Nintendo 64 decompilation project that was going on, and in particular, the Majora's Mask PC port that has officially come out by the modder that made it, right? Is that
not
correct?
Exactly.
No.
It's a little complicated. It's basically, so a couple of weeks ago, we talked about a recompilation project, right? That was basically allowed for any N64 game to be turned into a native PC port, theoretically, within really a matter of seconds, if you've got the tool ready, right? What was just released was the decompilation PC port of the game by the group called Ship of Harkinian, right? So basically, you might have played this before, and if you haven't, I really recommend you check it out, especially if you have a Steam Deck, is the Ship of Harkinian release, which is a completely bespoke, ground-up PC port of Ocarina of Time. Now that team has gone through and thoroughly made their own Majora's Mask PC port, essentially, which is called To Ship to Harkinian. As a, I guess, Fast and Furious joke. But so while that other guy was making kind of a bigger tool that could be used for any kind of game, this is a very handcrafted release with tons of additional features and all this kind of stuff. So if you have any interest in Majora's Mask and you have a gaming PC of any kind, this, I guarantee you now, is far and away the best way to play this game with tons of quality of life features, and they're going to keep rolling out updates as this thing goes. It's just some crazy timing that both of these compilation projects were happening around the same time. I think all in all, it's always going to be better to play one that's made, but it's handcrafted like this, because it's going to have a lot of creative input put into it. It's great that the other tool exists, but this is one that I'm going to be downloading right away. Because Majora's Mask is a game I've played a bunch of times, but I don't know that I've ever actually fully completed all the way through, and this would be a great way to do it. I played all the way through the Mario 64 PC port with all of its additional features, and that just made it such a better experience. And so I'm really excited to actually play this port.
Thank you. Yes, that is helpful, and to understand the difference between these two projects that are going on. Next up is a interview with Satoru Iwata, that was back 20. Speaking of 20 things that are 20 years old, apparently happened back in 2004, but was never shared, and it has been remastered and put out on YouTube. I actually haven't had a chance myself to listen to any of this, but I understand, it's obviously he's 20 years ago, so they're talking about what, the Wii or something.
The Wii had yet to be revealed at this point. Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's a Metroid Prime 2 Echoes poster behind him in there for reference.
Mm-hmm.
I know just from skimming the Nintendo life that he makes a comment about hardware that Sony and Microsoft were working on at the time, which was the PS3 and Xbox 360, and kind of talking about increased power requiring more work or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems interesting for today's time more so than that, because I feel like the 360 did pretty well, but
Totally. I think the reason why this is going around a lot is because, I think people just miss good leadership at Nintendo, especially someone like Iwata, who, when the company was going poorly, slashed his own CEO and president pay rate in half, which is something you never see happening nowadays. That is completely unheard of in today's capitalist environment, right? And we're seeing that cause the downfall of many creative studios and stuff like that. So I think people are just nostalgic for Iwata at this point. And then also, I think just some of his comments were very prescient to today's gaming landscape. And I think that came from the fact that he was a developer himself, and he understood that as these consoles go further and further into as realistic graphics as possible, as high technology as they possibly can, that game budgets are going to balloon, development time is going to take longer, and the potential for giant crashes gets bigger and bigger, right? If everything is resting on one huge release that takes 7 years to make, then the possibility of failure also skyrockets if it isn't an instant hit, right? And this is all stuff that he talked about in this interview 20 years ago. And so I think it's just very interesting that there are more nuggets of wisdom to be gleaned from Iwata that we're discovering all the time. And this is just one of those. And so it's definitely an interesting interview to watch. And he was a very interesting man.
Well, our final bit of news this week is related to our main topic. And that is that it has been revealed, I guess you could say, that the Paper Mario The 1,000-Year Door game was rated by the German video game rating organization, which is something I cannot pronounce, but also goes by USK. And apparently they rated it or classified it, as it said, in June of 2023. So almost a year before the game's release. Typically, at least, the ratings happen a lot closer to release. That probably suggests Nintendo has been sitting on this release, not just sitting on, planned sitting on it, right? Because, it wasn't announced.
When was it even revealed?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I can't remember now. There's other games that have, been known or rated earlier. I think in this Twitter thread that I'm looking at, the person suggests that Fire Emblem Engage and Metroid Prime Remastered were both rated also many months, 18 months before they were released. So we know that Nintendo does this. They have a big pipeline. They have games. They try to spread them out or for whatever internal reasons they decide, withhold them. And this is just further proof of that, right?
Yeah, it was announced in September 2023 Direct. So this is 3 months before that.
So the game had been pretty much completed 3 months before we even knew it existed, which is nuts to think about.
But that tracks with what you were saying, David, that you believe that there are all these other games that they are just holding on to, and they may be holding on to a completed system that, they just might be going through some QA stuff still.
Mm-hmm. And if the idea that this game was meant to be a Super Switch game as well is to be believed, then, that means that's even further speculation to the fact that this successor to the Nintendo Switch was meant to be out long ago, right? Or at least that they were at least a full year ago fully prepping games for the system that they thought was going to come out, right? So that would explain, I think, why they didn't even announce it. I think if it was meant to maybe be a launch game with that system, I think in the code of the game, I've read that there is some code that allows the rendering to go up to 4K, which is not something that this console can do. It's got the colored buttons as well in the UI, right? Which we've speculated on a number of times. I know I'm really grasping at straws here, but it was a light news week. But, I truly think that this new console coming out, for whatever reason it's been delayed, shipping, production, or if they're holding it back for one game, I think that we're going to have a pretty epic launch lineup for this thing, because I have to imagine that there are several games. And Summer, this is also proof that Intelligent Systems has been working on other shit since at least June of last year. So hopefully we'll be seeing some maybe Fire Emblem in this Nintendo Direct coming up. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I will wear a clown nose during the next Direct.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I have faith. I have faith.
Well, it's just really interesting to get these tidbits, and we all talk about Nintendo sitting on games, and here's proof, right? Or unless there's anything else about that, I think that's going to do it then for our news section, and we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about our impressions thus far of Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door. We are back, and this week we are talking about the Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door remake, which just came out this past Thursday, and we have been playing it to varying degrees, I'm guessing, but we're going to get into that.
Could we open with that, just like we all say how far we are in the game, so we get an idea of how much to talk about?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not very far at all. I finished basically the first chapter. So I've played like the prologue and chapter 1. I beat the boss at the end of chapter 1, and I did a little bit of the story beats afterwards, but that's about as far as I am. Just past Petalburg, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I'm at a similar spot. I don't think this is a spoiler, Hooktail. So I beat Hooktail, and then similarly, I did some of the story beats to lead up to chapter 2, but I haven't got the title screen for chapter 2 yet, but I think I'm about to.
I think we're at the exact same spot.
Yeah, like I went back to Rogue Town, sold, cooked some items, saved, and I was like, okay, now I can continue on. But that's where I stopped.
I think I am maybe closer to where you are, Summer, because of what you said earlier. I am the end of chapter 2. We've beaten chapter 2 over here.
Okay.
But not much past it, like just barely beat it. And then
okay. I'm maybe a quarter or a third of the way into chapter 3. So And that was my goal for tonight for recording. I was like, I want to get to the Glitz Pit. I want to be able to see the Glitz Pit before I talk about this, because the Glitz Pit was one of my favorite chapters.
I have no idea what the fuck that means, but I'm very interested in finding out.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well, maybe then now we can just kind of share how we're feeling about it so far. I'll just go ahead and share that I'm really enjoying it. I think I get why people really like this one. I think it's got a lot of charm. I mean, I like Paper Mario games, I think, just kind of in general, I've found. And I definitely have some things I like about this one more than others, but I think it's not perfect. We can talk about some stuff that I would like to discuss at some point maybe, but in general, I really like it. It's weird, it's fun, and so far, overall, big picture, really enjoying it and happy playing it. What about y'all?
You know, I actually ended up playing like a good amount of games this weekend, and this game was a little hard to keep my attention, if I'm honest. I think that I understand why people like it, but I think I also it doesn't necessarily quite fit in with my like gaming sensibility as far as like as an RPG. It's like got its classic like RPG mechanics in it, which I like, right? But then also it still feels like pretty simplistic, and it is, it's a Mario RPG, so it's not going to, have all the crazy growth and stuff that's in a, say like a Final Fantasy or something like that, right? Now, that said, also the writing is really funny and I really enjoy it, but there's also a lot, and everybody's like really long-winded, and it's just like stuff that I kind of like wish maybe happened a little snappier ends up taking a really long time, and it's like just long enough for me to like pick up my phone and like open up Twitter and then be distracted by something else, and then I like put the game down for a while. So that's been kind of happening for a while. I've been told that the game really starts picking up around like chapter 3, and that chapters 1 and 2 are a little bit slower, and there's you don't have a ton of abilities, and it's very simplistic. So I'm looking forward to the game opening up and getting more complex and getting a little bit more interesting and getting more involved with the story and like some of the mystery of the game and some of these characters, but I'm not quite there yet. I haven't written it off, but I was kind of expecting from everything I've heard about this game to be like really wowed right off the bat. And that so far hasn't quite been my experience. It kind of just feels like another Paper Mario game to me. But what about y'all?
I am enjoying it. I'm now, as I'm talking, realizing I played Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario, and now Paper Mario at the 1,000-Year Door, all within a 6-month span. And out of all of them, so far, it is my favorite. So that being said, yeah, it is a little bit long-winded. I do remember this also about Super Paper Mario being really long-winded. I like so far, I like that I did play Paper Mario before this, because I get to see the mechanics build. Paper Mario is simplistic, but Paper Mario is a very interesting extension of Super Mario RPG. And then now to see the extension of Paper Mario into Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door is like, to me, a really rewarding series of events. I think not famously, I'm not famous, but I was really kind of lukewarm on Super Mario RPG at the end of the day. So this one, it is slow, but I liked how Paper Mario progressed, the original. So I'm curious to see how this one progresses as well. And I'm along for the ride. Yeah.
So based on what you just said, Jordan, I'm like so excited for you to continue playing, because chapters 1 and 2 are the weakest of the whole. It really is getting you used to the gameplay. And then by chapter 3 and onward, it's just bam, 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 with the storytelling and the gameplay and the progression. So if you're saying that it's already your favorite and you're still getting through what's considered kind of the tutorial of the game, you're gonna love this game. I want to mention, so I think I'm the only one that played the original, right?
I think so, yeah.
About the 4 of us? Okay. And I was getting nervous as we were getting close to the launch of this game, because I had not played the original of Super Mario RPG, but I started the remake, did not finish it. I don't even know that I got halfway through it. It didn't keep me the way that I had hoped it would. And I was like, oh no. do I have rose-colored glasses about Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door? Is this gonna be a situation where I'm gonna start playing it and I'm gonna feel like it's not what I want? And I'm struggling in a different way in that I am enjoying it so much. I'm enjoying it so much. Like there are moments in this game that I have to set my controller down and I go, because I love it so much. Just between the writing and the gameplay and like getting those stylish moves, like when I figure out a new stylish move, I get so excited about it. And we'll talk more about it too. But my favorite part so far is the music. And how much
the music is very good. Yeah.
And being able to appreciate what like the original soundtrack was and how much they've elevated it and how much newness they've brought to it in that way. So there's a part of me that's like, oh no, is this nostalgia that I love this? But also I kind of don't care because I'm who this game was made for. I am adoring the shit out of this. It's so good to me. And if you loved the original, you will love this remake. I can't speak to people who haven't played it before. Listen to Patrick and Jordan and kind of David on that. No, it's an RPG. It's an RPG,
yeah,
right?
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
So, but gosh, if you loved the original, you will love the remake. I can say that with confidence.
Awesome.
I think it's funny to hear y'all say that you think it's long-winded too, because I know this is something I want to save talking about maybe in more depth, but like, I think I really like that part of the game. Like, maybe more than some other parts of the game. Like I really enjoy these characters and all their dialogue, and I want to talk to every character, and I'm playing it with my son and he's like doesn't want to talk to every town's character, which I get, but I'm also like, can we please just talk to every town's character? He's like, no. And I'm like,
yeah, but Patrick, you're a games writer.
Are you Patrick?
I know, and then maybe that's, but like notoriously too, what's funny as somebody who like is written for games and like is in community of people who write for games, a lot of games writers admit that they skip dialogue. That's always funny to hear, you know, in certain games, especially, and that sort of thing, or like, you know, skip tutorials and stuff. But there are some games where I do that too, where I'm like ready to be like, geez, come on, move on. But this one is not one like that for me, but I totally get that there is a lot of it. So I can see where if it's not hitting for you, or if you're just ready to like, and I think I have never played it before, but if it does pick up, I can see that, you know, and the battles at the beginning are more simple and so on. But
I want to ask Patrick, so are you in every new area, do you bring Goombella out to press X after you've talked to a character to see what she has to say about everybody?
No, I didn't even think about that. We've done that for a few, but no, that's even better. I do like when her
flavor
comments
text
about something.
That's funny. I've been doing that, and I'm the one complaining about the dialogue.
I'm in the same boat.
I'll also go ahead and say that a lot of characters get updated dialogue every so often too. So it's fun to revisit areas and talk again. And it's especially in chapter 3, it's good to regularly talk to everybody. It's so
good to know.
It's great for people who like talking to people.
Well, there's a lot of different elements here to unpack and talk about. So we can jump around, of course, and whatever strikes us. But I think maybe we could start with just the gameplay in terms of the dynamics between what we're kind of talking about, the exploration, the dialogue, the talking, and the battles, and sort of the puzzle elements of the world too. There's a nice tension or balance between those things where you're, you know, having to go and communicate with people, solve some little puzzles, fight battles along the way. Do y'all think that's nicely balanced, or any comments about any parts of those?
Yeah, I mean, so far I would say the balance does feel pretty decent. And I think something that I've really liked about this game so far is the kind of exploration of it, right? And I think that I know currently I feel like maybe slightly overpowered. It's weird. I feel slightly overpowered, but also you don't really level up in that, like your attacks don't really do more damage as you go, or at least your base attacks, right?
That's what badges are for. So basically, like increasing your badge power, you will get badges that do things like that. And you'll also get other upgrades that increase like your boots and your hammer.
Right, the boots and the hammer ones in particular, I think.
Totally. And I've got some like that already, right? Like I've got the multi-bounce and stuff like that for the boots. But it's like But I think my point with that is that I think that it means that I don't feel like I have to go through and fight every battle. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of makes a really nice pace in there. That said, when I do fight battles, you get so little XP that it does make me want to grind battles. And so it's like, I've got this weird thing where it's like, this is a game I want to play while I'm like watching other stuff. But then if I'm doing that, I want to do the battles and not the story because it's hard for me to like pay attention. And so like, that's kind of been a strange balancing act for me. But all of that to say, yeah, I really like the dungeons and running around and figuring out like the puzzle solving elements, and the way that those all blend with the battles and everything is really working for me.
Yeah, I agree with the battles too. I really like the scaling of the XP that they give you. So like if an enemy is only giving you 1 star point XP, you're like, don't even bother with these guys. You shouldn't be fighting these guys. This is like, you're overpowered for this. Yes, you could grind it out and keep leveling up, but that's not the intention. The intention is for you to keep moving on to where you're getting maybe like 3 star points per enemy. And I feel like that was how Paper Mario was as well. And I thought that was a really interesting and nice way to just like naturally push the gamer along. Like, hey man, don't keep fighting these enemies. You can run past them. You can dodge them. Just keep going. I thought that was really nice. And then the battles, I still just love any sort of RPG with like timed button presses. I'm just a sucker for that. It just makes it more dynamic, and it just makes me more engaged with the whole game overall.
Let's talk about the timed button presses. Actually, Summer and I already talked about this a little bit the other day, but I want to get y'all's take on this, especially you, Jordan, since you've been playing a lot of these games recently. It feels easier in this game than in other Paper Mario games to nail the timing. And I think it might be. I think the window is bigger for like blocking or pressing A when you're jumping on head. Is that y'all's experience? Does it feel like the window is?
Well, we're no longer at 60 FPS. We're at 30 FPS now.
That might be part of
half of the inputs that you need. Yeah.
Does that affect button inputs? It's not just screen?
I mean, yeah, if the game is, it depends on how the game is internally running, right? Okay. But I think that like that was kind of a joke, but it could be, that it's like,
because different commands do have different timing. So I think that there are certain ones that are easier, and then there are certain ones that are harder, and then there are badges later on that you can get that will make the timing easier, but then you get less star power from it. And then there's a badge that makes the timing more difficult, but you get more star power from it. So I think it's all over the place. I think it just depends on what moves you're using. For the basic Mario and partner ones, though, I do think they are either easier or we've gotten better at them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say because I have been playing so many of these games. I'm like, I don't know.
You're nailing it.
This is like the third one I've played in a row, so I don't know.
Are you opting? Are you usually just pressing A to guard, or are you guys super guarding with B?
I didn't even know you could super guard with B. What is that mean?
I thought you were reading everything, Patrick.
That's
I was too.
That's an addition to this game that wasn't in the original game, as I understand it. And basically, it does make the game easier. It's like if you can get the input right. So it's instead of guarding before you get hit and decreasing your the amount of damage that you take, you press B as you're getting hit by the attack, and then you don't take any damage, but you damage the person that's attacking you. So it kind of makes it like a parry or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't done it a lot, but I have experimented with it, and it is very satisfying to parry and then kill an enemy doing damage while blocking their attack. It feels awesome. I feel like a god.
Especially with enemies that have a higher defense, especially early on, right? Some of the rock enemies, it can be helpful for those.
Totally. Yeah.
It's much more like risk reward, so it's a good thing, I think. Yeah.
I think that the one place where maybe I haven't closely read is all the like little tutorials when you unlock a new ability and stuff, because other than the flavor parts of those, I'm like, I know I've played these games. I know what to do, but apparently I don't. So maybe I will start paying more attention.
Yeah, your son just keeps mashing A through all the...
I couldn't finish reading it. so like the battle system, we've talked about it a little bit, but it is a more traditional RPG, but it does have the button presses. It's also got the theater elements, which keep it somewhat interesting. Like every once in a while, a person will throw something on the stage, good or bad, or there will be an environmental thing that happens. And I just kind of like that. It's just fun. It keeps track of how many people are in the crowd too. And, does that affect anything, y'all? Like,
how much star power you're able to get?
Yeah, because they
right?
help you replenish your star attacks. Okay.
Yeah, the more people in the audience, and the more star power you're able to get from your performance, basically, right? If you take damage or more damage than they thought you should have, like if you take damage right at the opening of the battle, like people will leave. You see them leave the audience, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah. And people like throw shit at you, which is really funny.
I wonder if that's a big part of why I love this game so much, is the theater element of it, right? I'm such a diva, and I was definitely very much into theater when this game first came out, so that really spoke to me. And the way that they incorporate the audience factor. So we've all beaten Hooktail here, right? So just as you got used to understanding what it meant to have an audience, and then for that type of audience interaction to happen, it's a funny way of showing you, there's lots of ways that the audience is going to be involved in this game.
Yeah, there was this point was brought up on the NVC. They just did an episode on this game as well. That's IGN's Nintendo podcast. And God, they're taking over all the podcasts too. No, I'm just kidding. But no, they just brought up how funny it is that between this and Super Princess Peach, like they're really on a theater kid spree recently, like Nintendo Switch releases. So I think all the theater kid Mario fans are really happy right now.
Where's our musical?
We'll get one soon. Yeah.
This is
Donkey Kong. That'll be the musical.
Yeah.
This is going to be a controversial statement, but I'm going to say it now while we're talking about battles. I think my least favorite part of all Paper Mario games is battles. Jordan's upset. And Summer's confused too. Like, because y'all are like, what is it then? I think I like the aesthetic of Paper Mario. I like the dialogue. I like the exploration, the puzzle solving. I like swinging the hammer.
That's why you're an Origami King fan, you know?
Yeah. I wish they were just action RPG games where you jumped on enemies and smashed them with hammers. And I know nobody's gonna like that take. Maybe David does, but
I like it.
but like I'll just say it now, because I think I'm kind of like David a little bit in that, like, long, turn-based battles. I used to love them, but I've kind of grown away from them, and I still really like these games, and I still think the battles are fine. But I said it. I'll get it off.
I don't disagree with you, but they have done that. Like, specifically, Sticker Star is more of an action game, but they don't make it action RPG. They just make it action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they just take out the RPG elements, which then makes me mad. So
and they did the weird sticker thing. I kind of wish it was just. Well, anyway, we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about this.
What I would say is, Patrick, you might actually enjoy Super Paper Mario for the Wii.
I was going to say that too.
That would be my recommendation to you, because it is a little bit more action heavy, but still has some RPG mechanics from, if I remember correctly. So
that's a great one to play on a Steam Deck also, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. Well, we can move on from that. Is there anything else related to the gameplay or battles or RPG mechanics, Jordan?
I did want to mention just to talk about it, because I had this similar issue with oh my God, too many papers and supers and Marios.
Paper Jam Sticker Buddy.
In the past 6 months for you, yeah.
Oh, my brain is melting, dude. But so my problem with Super Mario RPG was that the RPG mechanics are not deep enough, and it's like kind of like a baby's first RPG. And I think I'm more willing to be okay with that if, like, the writing and the characters and the world exploration elements are, like, amplified. So I'm like, okay, I'm willing to, like, make this simpler if I have something else to cover it up. So I feel like in Super Mario RPG, I feel like the world exploration, like, really did not do it for me. And that's, I think, ultimately why I was just kind of like really mid on that game, to use a phrase the kids say. And Paper Mario, I was like, oh, this is similar in the RPG level up mechanics, but the world exploration I really enjoyed, which this one is continuing that same style of world exploration where you get a partner and their ability helps you to open up new areas of the world, which is awesome. But it's just like with the Mario and Luigi series, you know, you have all these different perks or stats, sorry, not perks, stats that you can level up individually that all kind of give you a stronger piece of a certain area. So this one, it's just, you know, really simple. It's health, flower points, which will get you more abilities you can use, and then badge points, which you can just equip more badges that either do various things like give you more abilities, up your hearts or flower points, things like that. So I don't know. I just feel like we have to talk about that, or I would be remiss not to mention that it's just a very light RPG, you know, but I think because of the exploration, I'm willing to like be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's maybe some of my issue with it, is that it's like, it doesn't feel quite as like deep as it could be for me to be drawn into its RPG-ness, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's almost like either go all the way with it or go the complete opposite way with it. But right now it kind of lives in this middle world for me right now. And so it's really hard for me to like stay engaged and like, I don't know. Also, I think maybe if they added voice acting to this version, I would be a little bit more tuned in, you know? I think something about that, it in this day and age, like I really hope Super Switch games all have voice acting. I think it's time for Nintendo to graduate to that. You know, I know that there's a remake, the original didn't have it. And I think that there is charm to games that just go, you know, but I think like for me, like I kind of really wish this had some voice acting, you know, because the dialogue is so funny. And I think some performance with it, I think would actually go a really long way.
Maybe we can talk about some other elements now. I think this game has really great lighting. I just want to say
the game is gorgeous.
Yeah, yes. The graphics visually, it's really well done. I don't know, the character designs are part of that too, and I know that that's old, but the way they've remade them or whatever, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I just keep looking at weird lighting things and being like, man, I love this game's lighting.
Visually, the reflections in the water and the shadows.
The reflections on everything. I feel like every single like floor in this game has like a layer of like it's all a little damp or something, because you could like see these like great screen space reflections on everything. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and there are certain things that it's making me want to go back and just check like some quick videos of the original to see like how many things were our updates versus what was carried over, because there's certain things that I'm just enamored with, like it was in chapter 2 that was the first time that I noticed this, and this is one of my favorite details in all video games, but the sound that their footsteps made in chapter 2, walking around, and just the way that the sound effects were different in that space, that specific audio design choice. I have no idea if that's how it was in the original or if that was like a loving update made to this, and I can't wait to figure out more details like that.
Again, I think Origami King was also one of the best looking games on the Switch when it came out. And I think that this game borrows a lot of its visual identity from that game, and in a good way, right? I think that this, when you have character models that are lovingly hand-drawn, right, and are 2D, but in this 3D environment, it really frees up a lot of your rendering ability to really put a lot of effort into the lighting and the color grade and the post effects and stuff like that. And you can tell this is coming from a time where, you know, one of the big things about the GameCube is you could have hundreds of characters on the screen all at the same time, like Pikmin, you know, because they'll constantly just flood the screen with like huge like waves of many, many characters. And so it's just graphically, I think this game, you know, and that is obviously something that was in the GameCube original, but it looks even better now in this version, right? And so for me, I know, like, maybe if we can talk about performance along with these visuals, you know, I made a joke about the 30 FPS, and a lot of people are like really dogging on this game. I never played the original, so it doesn't like feel this feels like how it always was, right? Because I never played the game in 60 FPS. I think it's a shame that the GameCube ran it at 60 hertz and we're not getting that now. But if it means that we get beautiful visuals like this for a game like this, I would gladly take a 30 FPS lock with how good this game looks any day over the alternative.
Yeah, I'm constantly blown away playing this on TV and being like, this is still in 1080. It just looks incredible. The game is gorgeous. And on top of that, the one thing I wanted to mention too, besides just the graphical fidelity, was all the animations are so lovingly made. This whole game is so lovingly made. You can tell they put a lot of time into updating this and bringing it to be the definitive version of this game. But like, all the animations are so awesome. Like literally every character you can hit with a hammer and they have a animation reaction, which I don't know. I just go around and I hit every single character with a hammer.
And that's new, right? Like you couldn't hit like your companions before. And I know now you can do that.
Dang. And the other thing I've noticed too is like you can hit like a lot of walls and things will like shake. Like there's one character in not the hub town, but the first town you go out to, who collects Princess Peach memorabilia and is very into the memorabilia and says, don't touch anything. So my first reaction was, I'm going to hit the wall with a hammer and see what happens. And like everything on the wall shakes and the character makes like a grimace, like, no, don't do that. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, that like attention to detail within this game I was just like, man, they really love this franchise or this game.
And the sort of paper, like when like things transition and they do it in papery ways, or when you unlock a new ability and kind of like the backdrops expand from that stuff.
It crumples up and comes back down, and I'm like, this looks photorealistic.
Yeah,
there's a lot of really cool stuff that they have done here.
Yeah, totally.
That was one of my favorite things about this game, was the way that they incorporated different paper abilities. So we've all gotten the paper plane, right? And you've seen the icon 2D for the paper boat. That comes later. Lots of things like that it's a curse, but it's actually right. Yeah. I love the way that's done. The way that they incorporate it being paper is adorable. Love it.
The games at some point kind of, I mean, I guess they all have the paper theme, obviously, but it's like this, it still felt really fresh at this point in it. This was like the second Paper Mario game, so they really went all in on it. But then it's funny because that doesn't really have any bearing on the story. It's like the story is kind of disconnected from it. I might be wrong on that, but it's like, as far as where I'm at right now, it kind of just seems like they're just normal Mario characters and this is just a random Mario adventure. But then the kind of like third wall breaking stuff is that you could just turn into a paper airplane and you just are paper, so I find that to be pretty interesting as well.
Well, we kind of hinted at some sound design and audio stuff with what Summer was saying earlier, and we talked about the music briefly, but maybe we can talk more about music, sound effects, etc. Summer, did you want to expound upon the music and the differences?
The battle themes were not different in the different worlds or the different chapters in the original. And so them being updated to kind of thematically go with each. I mean, you had like your boss themes and your special battle themes, but like the standard battle theme, the first time that I heard the updated version of that in Hooktail's Castle, I gasped. And now I can't wait. And I'm going to do my best to not be spoiled on, and probably won't be spoiled on, because I've only found music on YouTube up through part of Petalburg. So YouTube rippers haven't even gotten through the whole game yet, which is hilarious to me. That we're just still working through, getting the assets from this game still. I can't wait to hear how much more is different about this game. Yes, I've mostly been playing this on the TV, but I'm realizing I need to play it more handheld with headphones too, because when I did that for the first time and realized how funky the bass was and just the opening theme song, the orchestrations in some of these and getting to hear certain instruments be highlighted, because it's all original recordings for this.
I think so. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It sounds like real instruments for a lot of it, but either way, the arrangements are like super dense. I found it's like the songs themselves have a lot going on, but then there's just like a lot of instrumentation and a lot of like just like a dense is the only word I can really think of to describe it. But I was like, the first time I heard the music, I was like, whoa, that's a lot going on, man. It's like it's not like it's not really a game I can just like. There have been other Nintendo games that I just kind of like leave on in the background. Like if I leave this on in the background, it's almost like too much. My brain just like latches on to like what's happening in all the songs, you know, and I'm like, it's great when I'm playing the game, but like when it's on just like in the background, it gets a little chaotic for me.
The game said the game said I refuse to be in the background.
Yeah, kind of.
This is not a game to be in the background. This is a game to be at the forefront. Pay attention to.
It does feel that way. And I think it's a good thing. It's great, really great soundtrack. And the audio design in general, like you were saying earlier, you know, the echo of the footsteps when you're in like an underground area or any of this kind of stuff. It's all just like really lovingly crafted and sounds really fantastic.
This is such a weird thing. Now we're talking about audio design. There were certain things about this game that, you know, a lot of folks were like, I really hope that this stays in the game. I hope that this doesn't get changed, or I hope that this like gets retained or whatever. And there was just one thing for me and a few other people after having watched a friend stream the original not that long ago, and we all kind of realized, oh, that's kind of messed up that was in there. The first time that you control Peach and she goes to the bathroom and she does her whole shower sequence. In the original, there was a zipper sound effect when she went to do her shower. They took that out of this game, and I was like, okay, that's the only thing that I was like, they took that out. I can play the rest of this game without being stressed out.
Well, how else does she take her dress off? If not a zipper?
Is that sound effect really necessary? We know why that sound effect was in the game, right? And like, yes, she still showers, and it's like not like whatever, fine. But like the idea of that like audio design is so sexist and awful. So that being removed, I was like, okay, I can play the rest of this game without being like stressed, and I can just enjoy the game now. Sorry, that's my one little interjection that I had to get in.
No, I haven't gotten to that. Oh yeah, it's a little weird.
Well, you wouldn't even realize it though. Like if you and I didn't necessarily think about it because I played the game for the first time, you know, or, you know, how many years ago, almost 2 decades ago. And it was only because I had watched a friend stream it recently and that moment happened, and it was like a whole thing, and we had to like break it down and discuss it because there was one person in chat that was like, no, I don't see the big deal. It was like, I don't have time to break this down for a random person. And knowing that other things that are still in the game, like I'm just grateful. I just wanted to make sure I said this thing is that you run into a lot of characters that are, wow, Mario is world famous. Like some people say he's super, but there's also a lot of older characters that you run into that get his name wrong. And this is also a theme throughout the entire game, is like you run into young people who are like, wow, it's Mario, I know him. And then you run into old people that are like Marty, Murphy, Mario. And I think that's funny thinking about when this game originally came out, because that's the original writing. Thinking about when this game originally came out and the wave of Mario, Super Mario at the time, and he was this force, and like now everybody knows who Mario is. But at the time that this game came out, and you know, kids knew who Mario was, adults didn't necessarily, especially older adults didn't know who he was. And that knowing that writing was basically kind of real life commentary and how they saw Mario, or how intelligent systems saw Mario. I just think that's really funny to think about in the context of when the game was, you know, released and written. I think it's really funny.
Totally. Yeah. I think something else that's interesting too, that has been kind of a bit of a talking point around this game's release, some for better, some for worse, is that this game is woke now. Mario has gone woke. I'm joking. But the character of Vivian is like canonically a trans character in this game. And that was something that wasn't in the original localization. It wasn't,
there was specific dialogue that they...
Yeah. That they had changed around, and I haven't gotten to that point in the game yet. This is just kind of what I've heard and read in different news stories and stuff like that. And so I think that's interesting, and this we've seen that also with Super Mario RPG and a couple other games recently that are getting remasters is that they do kind of new translations that kind of marry the original intent of the Japanese with the original translations from the Nintendo Treehouse at the time, right? And so I think that that's really great. Well, first of all, it's awesome that there's like that there just openly is a trans character in this game, and that they didn't try to like hide it for the Western release. But it also just like shows to me how faithful they want to stay to a lot of the original intent of these games, which also kind of gives me hope for other games that historically have had localization issues, something like Mother 3, something like some of these other Nintendo games that maybe weren't brought over because at the time, maybe some of the themes or whatever weren't really seen as appropriate for children in that day. Not that that was correct at the time, but you know what I'm saying. So that anyway kind of gets me kind of excited, and I'm excited to meet this character that I've like heard about for a very long time in this game. And I'm just excited to see like what like future Nintendo remakes, like how they'll differ from what they were when we were kids, you know?
This isn't exactly related to, it's not really related to Vivian at all, but just talking about this in the shower scene makes me also, this game is just kind of sexy. Like there's like
everyone wants to fuck
but like
Mario
positive. Yes, that like, too. But continue, Patrick.
Well, like
I want to hear what you say.
I've been doing the this chapter 2, and Madame Fleury, just her design and her approach to things, and the mouse character. I'm not
Miss Mouse. Thank you very much,
Miss Mouse.
I'm gonna cosplay her. I figured it out.
the sort of jealousy there. I don't know. I know there's little hints of that with like Birdo and some other more recent games, but it's just kind of a lot of it, and it's both weird but also good, and you know what I mean? Like it's just kind
funny.
It's funny, and it's unusual for a Mario game in some ways.
I don't think it's that unusual for Nintendo games. I mean, I can't think of the last Zelda game in which every female character didn't want to bone Link, you know? Look at like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. Everyone's constantly like, oh my God, you're so hot. Like it's kind of not that out of the ordinary. But it is a little strange for Mario. And I think that kind of comes to a larger discussion topic, which is just like, this is back when Paper Mario games were weird and like did their own thing and weren't watered down. You know, like kind of like every, you know, there was some sort of, we talked about it in our Mario RPG episode, but something happened at Nintendo where they're like, the characters can't be interesting or unique anymore. And everything has to be very milquetoast and everything has to like fall within the Mario guidelines. Right. And this game was not like that. And it's really refreshing to see. That is something I really enjoy about this game. I don't know if y'all agree with that.
No, totally. I think, you know, that those guidelines, I'm not sure that they're out the window, but I think between this and Mario Wonder, not that Mario Wonder like was super weird, but just I think they're more open to Mario being varied again. I could be wrong, but it just feels that way.
This was the game, to go about on what David was saying. I feel like this was the game that, for folks like me, that this was the first Paper Mario game that we ever played. So we expected other games that came out that were called Paper Mario to be like this game. And then none of them were. The one on the Wii was kind of like it, but the writing and the interactions still weren't quite
and the
like
gameplay was
this.
Totally different also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for it to be so different from that, folks like me, you know, got halfway through that game and said, you know, I don't think this is what I want to be playing. I'd rather go back and play Thousand Year Door again. When you say back when those games were weird, to me, like Thousand Year Door was the one. I like Mario and Luigi, those games, it had a lot of what we liked from Thousand Year Door, as far as like the quirkiness and the combat goes. But as far as Paper Mario games go, like Thousand Year Door was kind of it for people like me, I think.
I do want to give a quick lip service to Vince. Coolunga Vince mentioned this on the Discord. I think it's been interesting, and this is a good point, that he asks, will Charles Martinet or Kevin Afghani have more credits as Mario this year? Because Charles Martinet, I guess they just used the same voice, right? Maybe they or I don't know, remastered it or something.
No,
but,
I think it's all those same clips.
As
far as I understand.
Right, like they didn't record any new ones. So
I doubt they would bring him in for that if they already had voice clips.
Yeah. So they've reused them or remastered them or whatever. But yeah, definitely going to be Charles Martinet as Mario more this year than. I mean, unless we get three surprise Mario games.
Exactly.
Luigi's Mansion 2, it'll be the same. So
yeah, with him playing Luigi. Yeah, I can't imagine.
Mario, presumably.
Right. But I mean, he's not really in that game as much. But it's kind of Luigi's fucking game, Patrick. But anyway.
No, but Mario, he voices Mario.
But he voices Luigi too. Anyway, we're not going to get in an argument about this with you. But anyway, no, I do find that interesting, and it's weird that they recast him this year, and then this is also the year where they're just re-releasing every single game that they've ever made in perpetuity, because Nintendo's just not in the business of making new games for the Switch right now. They are making them for their next platform. But that's interesting. I can't see Kevin Afghani coming back for another game this year. I'd be very surprised. But whatever the next game is, I think Kevin Afghani is going to be there for that as well. But yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe this is Charles Martinet's last tour.
Hurrah.
Yeah, exactly. With some new games. And that's a nice thing.
But what if whatever Odyssey 2 was finished before Mario Wonder and Charles Martinet is Mario also in that? That would just be hilarious. But yeah, they made such a big deal of him being the recast and then have used him very infrequently.
Well, Charles Martinet, for the record, will be at Nintendo Live in Australia, which was just announced. We didn't put that in our news section. Yeah. But there is a Nintendo Live happening in Australia, and he will be there. So they're still trucking him out to events and parading him around in front of the fans. I don't know why I'm saying that like he's cattle or the pig from Babe, but either way, it's good for him to have a little bit more FaceTime.
I think the real question is, in the Super Mario Brothers movie follow-up, is there going to be a Kevin Afghani cameo within the film?
Maybe in, the Super Smash Brothers movie, the third Avengers level Smash Brothers movie that happens 20 years from now. Maybe at that point, Kevin Afghani will have enough games under his belt to be a legacy character in that. But I mean, he's got to pay his dues. All right. Charles Martinet earned that.
True.
All right. I think we can wrap up our conversation since we've moved on mostly, but so that's going to do it for our talk today on Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door. Since we've all started, and it sounds like most of us, if not all of us, will continue at least somewhat. We'll probably be talking about it in future weeks. But we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the other games that we've been playing recently. Well, I think it was actually, shout out to Jay, who pointed out that Minecraft was on sale for $15. We have recently purchased a laptop for my son as sort of an early birthday present. And because the summer is coming up and there's a lot of things he wanted to do, including Minecraft mods. So in light of this 15 years of Minecraft $15 sale, we bought 2 copies. So now we have Minecraft on the Switch. We got Minecraft on the iPad. We got Minecraft on 2 PCs in our house.
Ooh.
And
those are all cross play as well, right?
Maybe I need Minecraft.
You can play with each other on that.
So I think you can play cross play, but there's just something about like mods and like being able to do your own mods. And he has found ways to do that on the iPad, but the tools are not great. You know what I mean? They're okay. They're actually pretty good for touchscreen and all that, but he's interested in doing more mods. And we started a new survival world on our PC. I just play through, and we've been playing quite a bit of Minecraft the last couple of days. And I do kind of miss our old world and having all the things, but it's also kind of fun to start fresh. So yeah, that's really it, because I've been mostly bouncing between that and the Paper Mario game. I think I've played some other stuff, but that's primarily it.
Patrick, I'm proud of you for doing your part to make and continue making Minecraft the best-selling video game of all time.
Yeah,
You're really putting in the work.
I'm doing my part. Yeah,
I'm
Patrick,
doing my part.
If you're really a Nintendo fan, you'd be buying a new copy of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe every single week.
Right. Yeah,
Boost
for
those
all of
numbers.
our Switches. Yeah,
I mean, come on.
I'll go next. I didn't mention this at the top, and I kind of realized halfway through the show. The show I work on for money was canceled. So I am now back in the freelance job world. It was officially announced. So I have been more focusing on like, okay, now that this is officially canceled, I need to like figure some shit out. So I've been really trying to like work on a portfolio, update my website, go through some of my photography I've been doing the past couple of years, stuff like that. So other than this game, I really haven't played too much, but I have gone back and played a couple runs of Hades. Shout out, thanks Summer for getting me back on the Hades kick.
Hell yeah.
Dude, still so good. Still, I mean, this is kind of edging up there, maybe a top 10 of all time for me, because it is just so replayable. And so it's also a great game to have on while I'm like listening to music or, you know, have a YouTube on the side. And it's just, yeah, I love it. And then when you finally get to a good story beat, you're like, okay, pause this and then pay attention. But yeah, man, what an incredible game. I'm really excited to try Hades 2, but I'm also still like, get through all the story of Hades 1 and then dive in. But
I want to ask you really quick. You said when you hit another story beat. How far into Hades are you?
I think I've hit I've got 7 wins or 7 defeatings of Hades.
Okay, cool. Right on. Okay.
Yeah.
You're getting close to seeing like the bulk of it. Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding is there's a number where I don't want to say it for spoilers, but there's like a number that you hit. But yeah, so I know I'm getting close.
But there's also still a fuckload of stuff after that. Yeah,
dude, and I'm down. I was really happy to have like logged in and not have to start from scratch. I had like a lot of shit already unlocked, so I was able to just get wins from the get go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I'll go next. I have been playing a good amount of games this week. Firstly, I do want to say, right before we started recording, I completed Picross E2 in Picross S+, or at least I finished all the normal Picross puzzles, so the 150 puzzles from E2. So I have the clip Picross to do. So that's 3 out of 9 done on that. I'm fine. There also was a demo out. There's a new we didn't put this in the news either. But there is a new Picross game that was announced, Picross S Namco Legendary Edition for the Nintendo Switch family of systems. It is the Namco version of the Sega Picross that Jupiter also made. This is a Jupiter-made Picross game. This is coming out soon, if not already out. I think by the time this podcast comes out, it will already be out. I think it's at the end of this month. But I did put a demo for this. This is actually a really cool one, man. I mean, I think a lot of people in the Picross channel and our Discord were really excited about it. And it's actually got like kind of CRT styled pixel art characters walking around in the background. So it's actually like got some movement and interesting stuff. So it's great. And, you make like little Pac-Man characters and Galaga and stuff like that. So that's great. Can't wait for that to come out. I went over to my buddy Rob's place for his birthday this past weekend. And we, among other things, played some Beatles Rock Band. Wow, man, is Beatles Rock Band not like one of the top 5 video games of all time? Such an incredible fucking game. We didn't play that long because of some technical difficulties, but that got me looking into a lot of like compatibility with maybe Steam Deck and like maybe getting some USB controllers myself, because Beatles Rock Band actually has a fan project, this like fan created free DLC for the game that adds every Beatles song that isn't in the game into the game. So it basically is like the entire Beatles catalog playable within Beatles Rock Band. And not only did they add those songs in and track everything, they added all their own animations, their own backgrounds, their own videos that play during it, and all this crazy stuff. So that might be a project that I kind of start working on sort of soon is maybe trying to see if I can fire up the PS3 emulator on my Steam Deck and install some of this custom DLC for Beatles Rock Band and see if I can kind of get like the definitive Beatles Rock Band experience going. Because, man, I had such a good time with that. And it's really fun to whip out Rock Band at a party, man. Like, it was like we were 15 again, you know? It's just like instantly you get sent back to that time and you just pick it right back up.
Sorry, does he have the drum set?
He's got the drum set, yeah.
Whoa.
He's got Rock Band 3 and 4, so he's got the one with all the cymbals on it and everything. Jeremy usually plays drums. It was Jeremy who owns this and all his video game systems we were playing on. But they're roommates, by the way. But yeah, and so it was they were roommates. They're lovers. But anyway, I don't think either of them listened to this fucking show, even though they're like my best friends. So I can say whatever I want about them. Anyway, but yeah, it was a very fun time. I'm going to move on because I actually have a couple other games I want to talk about. Like Jordan, I also am completely Mad Max pilled right now. I watched Furiosa and just had this insatiable urge to get back into that world. And so also George Miller, the director of Furiosa, threw some shade on the Mad Max video game recently and was like, we were making a game and it wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be. And so I'd love for Hideo Kojima to make a new Mad Max game, but I'd never ask him. But, Kojima was like at the premiere when he was giving this interview. So I think he just like had him on the mind, but the game is good, guys. Like the Mad Max video game is a really good, fun, open world, like wasteland game where you drive around cars and get into car combat and shit. It's a super, super fun game. I had never really played it. So I found a key online, like a Steam key for like $2 and picked it up and it's a lot of fun. And I've been dipping my toe into that game and enjoying it quite a bit. That game had the bad luck of coming out the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5. So I think a lot of people really overlooked that game for like what is admittedly a far superior open world game. But still, it's very fun. I'm enjoying it. And I just love being in that world right now. And then lastly, I want to give some shout outs to one game really briefly, but and then another game. Recently, there was a Humble Bundle that had a lot of Night Dive first person shooters included. Night Dive Studios is a great company that I think is owned by Embracer Group, or might be. But anyway, their forte is just taking old PC first-person shooters and remastering them with like tons of new quality of life features. They don't like go hog wild and do like ground up remakes or anything like that. It's just basically taking these games that are really hard to run and just adding everything that you would want from a modern game into it. That mainly includes like twin stick controls, mouse keyboard support, all this kind of stuff that just brings it up to speed. One of them that I've been playing was Turok. I played that briefly, the Turok remaster. That game actually, I don't get motion sick, but that game actually made me really motion sick because it's got lots of like head bobbing and like when you turn, it's all this old shit. But fortunately, because these games are made by Night Dive Studios, they have toggles for all of that shit. So I was able to like toggle off the head bobbing, do all this kind of stuff, and make it to where that game was so much more playable and didn't make me sick to my stomach.
I just looked it up, and Night Dive is owned by Atari.
Very good.
Which is just kind of a funny callback to earlier.
Yeah, we'll see some of these games on the Intellivision Amico soon. Also, I think a friend of the show, MVG, works for Night Dive as well, and he works on a lot of these ports as well. But the one game that I've been putting my most time into that I've been really enjoying is called Forsaken. I don't know if you guys remember this game. It was in like it was an N64 game and like a PS1 game, and I think was also on PC or 3DO or something like that. But anyway, this game is really cool, and I never played it when I was a kid, but I was always, it's got like this like hot woman on like the cover art, which is like not what the game is like at all, but it just kind of drew eyes, I guess. But I've been playing this a lot. It's a kind of a Descent like. I don't know if you guys ever played Descent, but it's kind of these like 6 degrees of movement first person shooter game. So it's like you're flying around in the ship and you can go up and down and you can roll and you can go all over through this 3D map, and it's just super fun. And on a Steam Deck, like this is like a dream game. I'm really enjoying this because when you add gyro to it and you use all the buttons for like roll and yaw and all these different movement options, and then also doing like your shooting and aiming and stuff with the Steam Deck, it just feels so good to play. And it's crazy how this game from like 1998, which at the time was pretty amazing that they were able to get this stuff done, but kind of overlooked and kind of whatever, like now has this whole new lease of life through its incredible control options and all this different kind of stuff. I've just been really enjoying that quite a bit. And I love old school boomer shooters and stuff like that. So I've been having a ton of fun with that one, but sorry to go for so long on this section. But that's what I've been playing. What about you, Summer?
Yeah, so besides a lot of Paper Mario, I finally hacked my 3DS. Ooh. So, of course, the first thing that I downloaded was Fire Emblem Fates and all of the DLC
from that 8 shop.
Yep, and the main reason I wanted to play through this is because we're going to a big Fire Emblem weekend party this summer at someone's house where the hosts are their favorite title is Fates, and I'm like, I need to go back and give it another shot and just try to play through all of it best I can. At the very least, I'll enjoy the combat side of it. These games are so horny. I didn't
intelligent systems, baby.
I didn't misremember that, because I remember back then thinking, wow, like, yes. And here we are. So next year will be the 10-year anniversary of the original Japanese release. International. It didn't go international until I think 2016, but it was originally developed and released, etc. Almost 10 years ago. And what do I say about these games? So far the maps and the combat, it's all good. A lot of it does kind of feel. The biggest critique is that a lot of it feels copy pasted from Awakening. If you haven't played Awakening, then that's not a problem for you necessarily. I remember at the time that had been a big complaint of mine was, this does just feel like Awakening, and I wanted a new game, even though I did really enjoy Awakening. Right now, I'm kind of like, I think I'm just enjoying playing Fire Emblem. I don't know. It's easy to close and open the 3DS. I'm going to be commuting soon. So that's probably what I'll play on my commutes because, again, I've talked about this before. The Switch feels like a production to pull out of a bag. 3DS feels a little more inconspicuous. So I will probably be playing this a lot on the train.
All right. Very nice. That's going to do it then for our episode today on Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door. Thank you to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thank you to Corduroy, who does our music. Thank you to all of our patrons on Patreon. If you're looking for me, Patrick, you can find me online as PDYX.
You can find me at WeBewitched.
You can find me at Bordan.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And if you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We got a website, switchheadz.com. And like Patrick said, we have a Patreon. We also have a Facebook group and a Discord. Please join us over there on Discord. We'd love to have you. And if you've been listening for a while and you feel like chucking in $1 on the Patreon, we'd appreciate that too. We'll have links to all of those in the description of this episode. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple, Spotify, or any of the other podcasting platforms, be sure to give us a like, give us a review, subscribe wherever you can. We would appreciate that. That's going to do it for the episode, man. Ooh, what a good one. Paper Mario. What a series. What a savings. We're going to be back next week with an all-new episode on a really fun topic I've been hoping to do for a long time. I can't wait for you guys to hear that one. So make sure you don't touch that dial and stay tuned for next episode. But in the meantime, gang, you guys know the drill. Be safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Go play Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door. Why don't you go and be really horny around Mario? But in the meantime... We love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.